today, super, super cool topic. And you're going to hear a little less of me and a little more of Kenny here. The topic is how to double new member engagement with personalized onboarding. And so the bulk of today is about new member onboarding. We are going to get into some renewal stuff, and we are going to get into some member acquisition stuff, but the bulk of today is about new member onboarding. I am Dave Will. If we have not met, I'm the co-founder and CEO of PropFuel. I like my dad jokes, and I really enjoy having some of our clients on every now and then. And I've got to know Kenny a little bit over the past couple years. He's the acquisitions and member benefits manager for the Academy of Model Aeronautics, AMA. And Kenny, if you could, thank you so much, by the way, Kenny, for doing this with us. I know this doesn't come without a fair amount of effort. So thank you for the effort you put into this.
No, I appreciate it. We've been a client for about 2.5 years, and one of my favorite aspects of my role and job here has been, being able to utilize prop fuel. It's been great for us.
Dang it, Kenny, you even sound like a country music singer. You got the drawl. You're so chill. All right, so Kenny, give us just tell us a little bit. I mean, you don't need to read this to us, but tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
what AMA is. How many members do you have? Talk to me a little bit about AMA.
yeah. AMA was founded in 1936. We are an organization of model flyers, so scale aircrafts, a hobby that I otherwise didn't know existed. But we have over 100,000 members, over 2,000 clubs across the U.S. We provide our members with a monthly magazine, insurance. We give out scholarships, and we have competitions. We have the 2025 World Championships here on site in Muncie, Indiana, this summer. It'll bring international competitors here, and you know, our role is to advance the hobby, help advocate and safeguard it for our members.
Some of this is involved with just encouraging the sciences, right? Like encouraging STEM and in the youth. Not to
Yeah,
mention marrying science and the hobbies, right? I mean, there's a lot of science, obviously, it goes into the work you guys do.
absolutely. Notably, Neil Armstrong was a member of our organization.
Really? Now, what year did you say you started? 1930 something?
1936.
1936. And I would imagine it's a pretty progressive thing in 1936.
Absolutely. I believe, don't quote me on this, anyone, but we got our start through competition free flight. There were many groups of people that were free flight, flying across the country. They wanted to have competitions to see whose aircraft could stay in the air the longest. And, every club or every state had its own rules. So they formed this governing body to, level the playing field. Everybody was playing under the same rules. And we're here today with over 100,000 members and clubs all across the country, and it's it's something I never knew existed. I live 30 miles away from Muncie, Indiana, and had no idea this hobby existed. And since I've been with AMA for nearly 5 years, it's been a pleasure to learn and meet with our members and see how it's had such an impact on their lives and careers and everything in between.
All right, Kenny, thank you. By the way, I'm always reading these comments along the way. And who was it? Somebody here said, gosh, there's an association for everything. Yes, I lost that one. Ginger says, truly an association for everything. Hey, Ginger, did you know there's a fainting goat guild? I thought it was the Tipping Goat Association, but it's a Fainting Goat Guild. Yes, I would agree. There is an association for everything. Now, this is a consumer-ish level association, but that doesn't mean this doesn't apply to professional associations, or even the methodology works for trade associations too, and the way that trade associate all of these things are human to human. There's a book that I am uh, actually two books I want to recommend. I think they're very good. Never Lose a Customer Again, Never Lose a an Employee Again. Both written by Joey Coleman. I interviewed him in a podcast, which is why he's top of mind. But he says, like, business or any organization, whether you're B2B or or B2C, or whether you're a trade association, professional association, or in this case, a hobbyist association, um, it's really just human to human activity. And so you can apply all of this to whatever association you're in. Having said that, let me tell you a little bit about PropFuel. If you're not familiar, I know a lot of you here are clients already, so you can check an email or two for the next 30 seconds. If you're not a client, thank you very much for coming. I hope you get some value out of this. PropFuel is a software platform designed to create a more personalized experience for your members, and it's a way of capturing insight and triggering action. We use this methodology called Ask, Capture, Act. We call that conversational engagement, and we do that wherever your members are, primarily email, SMS, and on your website. So this is a suite of tools where, and we started with email, so the bulk of our clients are using email. We have 300 associations using PropFuel at this point. And a lot of the examples you're going to see, I think all of the examples you're going to see today are over email, maybe a little bit of SMS sprinkled in there. And we just rolled out the website engagement this year as well. So having said that, Kenny, I'm going to turn the floor over to you. I'm going to keep an eye on the questions. If you could, folks, feel free to throw your questions into the chat. I am going to moderate and facilitate this, so I'm watching for your questions. If you have any questions about what Kenny is talking about, then I don't mind interrupting him. All yours, Kenny. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally forgot about this. Before we go into your story here, what is your biggest pain point with new member onboarding? Put that in here. That will help Kenny and me uh, drive the conversation towards those themes. Now, while you're doing that, these are some of the problems we see traditionally with new member onboarding. I want to tell you the way I see it. And I think right now the problem is that there's a lack of attention. And in fact, very early on, we abuse this opportunity to communicate with the new member, and we send them all kinds of stuff, like tons and tons of stuff. I've seen some campaigns with 50 links in a particular email saying, hey, let me tell you all about everything we do. When actually, the very first thing you would do if you met a new member in person, and I always say this, so many of you heard this before, but if somebody walked into your office wearing a sign around their neck that said, hey, I'm a new member, what would you do? What would you say to them? And my guess is you would say, welcome. What can I do for you? Or how can I help you? Or why did you join? And so that's what we're trying to change in this industry. We're trying to help associations listen a little bit better by asking questions. We're trying to help um, grow the ears a little bit. As my partner Cameron once said to me, the irony is not lost on everybody that I'm running a company about listening. But having said that, listen a little more, talk a little less. All right. Having said that, some of the answers, and I'm going to skim through a couple of these, make sure they receive the new member onboarding, keeping new members engaged, open rate for communications. Oh, Shannon, I want to talk to you about open rates. I wish everybody would just forget about open rates and think through conversions, think about click-through rates. Open rates are good to compare one email to another within a very short window of time to see which one might have gotten more exposure than another. But open rates are a vanity metric that mean nothing other than this email might have done a little bit better than the other. The thing to really focus on is click-through rates or even better conversions. And Kenny is going to show you how he measures the success of a particular campaign in here related to conversions. Figuring out how to segment communications based on interests. I wrote an article. Gosh, I'm just going to comment on every one of these for a second. I wrote a blog post in LinkedIn about how segments are not the end all. In fact, segments are just the beginning. I would argue the end all is talking to each individual member as if they were an individual, not as if they're a segment of people, a bucket of people in a group. Segments are just slightly better than mass emailing everybody. And Laura, the way you do that is by asking questions and giving people this experience of a choose your own adventure. All right. Not getting any feedback, communication overload, figuring out good cadence. Excellent. This is really, really helpful. Getting members to engage. I think, yes, Justin, thank you. Especially with Apple's update, talking about, that was a couple years ago, talking about the open rates. Yeah, the All right, just Kenny, I'm gonna pass it on to you now. Take us through your journey with AMA. Tell us what the issues were. You tell us through some of the solutions, and then we'll see those examples.
Yeah. So as a 501c3, we have an executive council, and part of their directive to me and our leadership was to really focus on acquisition and retention, something I'm sure every person in here is trying to focus on, trying to do better at. It's the major metric. For us, I took a look at what I would call our introduction to the world, our introduction to a person. The first email, that first onboarding series, what those looked like, and they were everything you talked about, Dave. It was a one size fits all. It was very wordy, 25 calls to actions, a lot of hyperlinks, and it was just too much. So we wanted to revamp that. We wanted to focus on simplifying it, just offering you know, a few questions initially, and just giving the member what they need. So for us, it's been great. We launched this in October, and we've learned so much more than I ever would have expected. I know on there, or the slide before, Dave, it talked about
Oh yeah.
clubs, and there there's a disconnect. We have members that are in clubs, but the onus for us is on the club officer to add that person to their roster. Well, they don't really have any motivation or need to do that until they're ready to renew their chapter, and that happens in the spring. So we didn't really know what the relationship was for these new joining members and clubs. So for us, it was great to have the question, have you joined an AMA club? And we were learning that a lot more of these new joining members are connected with clubs, but from our end, our AMS, we it doesn't show it. But it's great to see that a lot of these new joining members are getting connected with clubs, or if they haven't, we asked them if they would like to, and then we used internal alerts to connect them with the information, or even send an internal alert to staff to reach out to the individual, use our club finder, find a club near them, and get them connected. So that's that's been working out really well for us.
That's not too unlike chapters or even with trade associations where you have a primary contact and then all these members or contacts underneath that organizational member. There's a lot of similarities there, especially when you use the word roster. I'm sure that rings a bell for a lot of the people here.
Sure, and I'm sure, like, for chapters, clubs, whatever your association may be or have, that's the heart of AMA. That's I know if we can get members connected with a club, they're going to be more likely to renew, and I'm sure the same's for everyone in here that has clubs or chapters. And that's just a data gap we didn't have, and learning more with the prop field questions we're asking and directing these new joins directly to clubs in their areas worked well for us.
All right, how'd it turn out?
How'd it turn out? It's it's going well. I've blown out the engagement numbers that we used in our previous campaign when I compared it. Members seem to really be resonating with this onboarding campaign. We have 46% engagement, which I think's crazy. 25% of people that get our first email click on something or engage with it, and that's far better than any data we had before. And even more than that, we just had click data. Somebody clicked on a hyperlink previously, but now I can see, there's 62% of people have told me they've joined a club. That's useful info. And from there, you could follow up and get a testimonial. Oh, you joined your club. How is it? How's it going? You get a 2 for 1. A member's in a club, and then you could get a positive affirmation that you could use in marketing pieces, a carousel on your website. It's it's been going really well, and we're only partway through this journey. And for these new joins, at the 90-day mark, I'm asking all of them, "How's it going? How's it going?" And if it's a below five or lower, that internal alert's sent right to our member support, and they can reach out
So
to that
that's a
member.
scale question. How's it going? It's like it's a rating and one. I'm assuming 1 to 5 scale.
A 1 to 10,
Okay.
1 to 10. So early engagement has been has been really well, and really retention starts day one. You think I think a lot of times, I guess within our organization, we talk about calling lapsed members or trying to get these lapsed members back, but in my view, never let them go lapse, never allow that chance to happen. Find out what their issue was early on and try to solve their problem, overcome whatever hurdles in their way, and it's we're getting a lot of good feedback and engagement from this.
Excellent. Talk us through the first check-in in a new member onboarding program.
Right. So you join our organization, 15 minutes later, you're getting this email. Uh, Kept it very simple. I would consider these really the three most important questions, or really important questions. Member benefits. I'm sure that's the first thing for every association. Everybody wants to know about their benefits. But for us specifically, I have no idea what this person's proficiency of flying is. There's a lot of new joining members that have joined and they have no idea how to fly. And for our organization, we have clubs and introductory pilot instructors that will teach beginners to fly at no cost. So connecting these new joining members with an instructor near them, it can only help our retention numbers. And I think it's pretty slick with Prop Fuel. The landing page, I use the HTML code section. I'm not a coder. I don't know how to do it, but I know we have the tools now with open source, AI, Chat GPT, where I know what I want it to look like or want it to do. And it adds a very cool aesthetic. It gives a personalization of their name, their member number. It has the what I would call the primary member benefits there. It also has a link for our affinity and discount partners within that landing page. But it's it's pretty slick. I'm biased. I made it, but it's been well received by these
Mhm.
members, and you know, yeah, 45% of people wanted to know about their benefits, and 25% of people that engage with this want to learn how to fly. So a quarter of my new joints may not even know how to fly. So connecting them with that instructor early on is paramount to getting them to renew. Because if they know how to fly, they're going to be with a club and they're more likely to stay in the hobby.
Kenny, question came in specifically. I think this might be a very specific question for Prop Fuel, so we'll make this answer very quick. But how did you set up the email to come to 15 minutes after joining?
You can just, and you're enrolled in campaign, wait for amount. It doesn't have to be a whole or one or greater than. You can make it a decimal. So 0.25 of an hour would be 15 minutes. So the second they convert on our end in the AMS, they're getting an email 15 minutes after.
You can also set it to be 0 hours too. So as soon as
Yeah.
Prop Fuel gets a notification, boom, it sends that email out. All right. Let's continue on here. Again, if you have any questions about what you're seeing on the screen, this is a good time to ask, and I'll jump in.
Yeah. So for email two, this is 9 days after a new member joins. We want to know if they found a club near them. And to our I guess not to our surprise, but we were encouraged to see that the majority of these new joins who've engaged with this question had joined a club. And for those that said no, we wanted to find out if they wanted to fly or connect with a club. There are there is a subset of our members that join that have a large property that don't want anything to do with anyone. They just want to get the magazine, fly on their property, and that's perfectly fine. But we know there's a lot of people that have joined that don't know how to fly or haven't connected with a club or don't have a place to fly. Maybe they live in a Chicago or something. Where would you fly in a major city? But you will find our clubs in every nook and cranny of this country. They're places that you otherwise wouldn't even know existed out in the country or off a waste management property. They're they're not. I mean, they're flying airplanes or small aircrafts. You're not going to see them. They're not prominent, so they're kind of the hidden secret of your community in a lot of ways. So, but for those that were looking for a club or looking for a club, an internal alert would be sent to our clubs department. They would then connect to that member and tell them of the clubs within a 25-mile radius and have that communication piece with them, and they could exchange information if the member had questions. But getting them the information to the club near them, it's it's been effective, and it's cool to see that, you know, if they hadn't connected with the club, 72% wanted to connect with the club. So that just reiterates to me that the clubs are really the heart of our organization and really what I need to be pushing these new members to. You get with a club, you're gonna renew.
Kenny, forgive me if you said this already, but what is the time? Uh, what is the gap between the first check-in and the second check-in?
9 days.
Okay. And now in between this time, I always think of Prop Fuel as being something that sits on top of all of your other communications, whether, however you're communicating with people. This is really just the ears. We're listening. And of course, we're listening with the intent of giving something a relevance, but oftentimes just things to tell people. Are you also sending out broadcast emails in between these?
We have, yes, we use another email platform, and for all our new joining members, they also subscribe to our weekly newsletter that goes out every Tuesday. So there's other email
Yeah.
communications not with PropFuel that these new
Yeah.
joining members could receive between that 9-day period.
Yeah,
Sure.
that's great. It's exactly how this is designed to be used as something to be considered part of the member journey. Good, thank you. And really, really good engagement levels here too.
And
Um,
that's a testament to you and this platform. I think really just keeping it as simple as possible. I can only speak for our association, but new joining members for us are average in their late 50s, and it's 2025. Attention spans aren't there. More words is less. Don't just, you might be better off just not having any words and just having the question and the prompt.
yeah,
The
less is more in many, many cases. I mean,
Yeah.
too often when I get an email, I stop reading after the first few words because, well, let's
Or
just
you
say I'm
open
not
it
academic.
or you open it and get scared and you left. So it helps the
Yeah.
open rate, but it never resonated.
So here, by the way, and I want you to explain what we're looking at here, but the beauty here, though, is what you've done is you created your own choose your own adventure book. And
Correct.
I think it's just beautiful. It's like I love this approach over the course of the first year to really get to know your members. And a lot of the stuff you can take and write it back directly to your database, whatever that is. Are you doing that with any of this? Are you writing any of this back to the AMS?
Yeah, we not within this campaign. We have a dedicated campaign for SMS. So for
Hmm.
new joining members, 60 days after they join, we ask them if they'd like to opt in to SMS. For those
Okay.
that do, it writes right back in as their primary contact and cellular number. For our renewing members, it's 45 days after they renew. We hit them with the opt into SMS. I
Hmm.
I still haven't quite. I need to get like preferences or interests.
Yeah.
We have of so many disciplines. I need to find a way to make that more part of the experience and then have it right back for that individual record. But that's next, I guess.
Kenny, before we get into explaining the slide, Marissa asked, do you have a recommended cadence of messages so we don't oversaturate members with messages? So, Prop Fuel, if you're a Prop Fuel customer, you have access to what we call our AI driven blueprints. And the AI blueprints are a combination of best practices that we've seen across 300 associations. And whether it's a trade association or professional, we have blueprints for every different type of association. And it takes the general best practices. Usually it's, 13 or so check-ins over the course of a year, with a few extra in the first few months. And then over time, checking in, ultimately getting to satisfaction halfway through the year, and then a renewal, beginning the renewal process as well. Now, the AI part takes all of your information from your website and sprinkles it into the questions and the responses and the landing pages and so on. So um, that's all baked into the Propfuel experience. Um, yeah, so there are plenty of plans set up, as you put it, Marissa. Yes. Uh, so you have 15 minutes. Dion wants to know you have 15 minutes and 9 days, and how long in between three, four, and five here? Or two, three, four, and five.
Yeah, that would be 14 days, and then 18 days. I don't know why 18 days, but
All
I
right. So talk us through here. What are you asking?
right. So, like I imagine most, there's a lot that our association could offer our member, but in an effort to not overwhelm them, try to just spread that out a bit. So for email 3, you'll notice I asked that question again. Where can I learn to fly? We have, if that is selected, they're added to another campaign, and 30 days later, we ask them if they learn to fly. Because if you're not flying, there's no reason to be a member, or they're less likely to renew.
Hmm.
Um, Again, email 3, I want to reiterate clubs. I want to find out if they have an interest in connecting with the club, and if they do, we're gonna get them connected with the club. Safety rules, it's a big question. If you were to buy a drone on Amazon, would you know where you could fly it, how high you could fly it, what the rules were for flying? Probably not for the general public. So I think it's important, as much as we are to safeguard the hobby, we want our flyers to be safe, the public to be safe, the airspace to be safe. So that's really the foundation for us. And events, there are we have a ton of sanctioned events across the country. Our clubs, each of them have their own events. We partner with, full scale aviation events. We'll have a presence there. So that's another good way to keep the member engaged, keep them as part of the hobby. Email 4 touches on a lot of the other resources and offerings we have for our members. We have a store where they could buy stuff. Government advocacy, the FAA always seems to be slowly trying to restrict the airspace or make it a little more cumbersome for our members. You got to register your aircraft with the FAA. You've got to pass a trust test. But so that just gives them information and that they need to be compliant and know what we're doing and how we're protecting the hobby. Member benefits, I know we touched on it in email 1, but just keep hitting at it. There may be something they missed the first go around. Media and publications, we have a monthly magazine, we have podcasts like many of you, I'm sure you're on YouTube, Facebook, IG, every social platform that exists. And we have a museum that has archives of like Neil Armstrong stuff, or you know aircrafts that were built in the 40s, 50s, and see how the technologies evolved with the radio controllers. And it's kind of like the only one in the world, really, I think, in terms of a museum for this hobby. And then, yeah, email 5. We have events all around, just trying to see if, had they been to one, have they competed at an event, or if not, we're going to give them the information to connect them with one near them.
So Kenny, I'm curious. You mentioned drones. Do your drone members and your more traditional uh, model members, do they get in fights? Is it like the sharks and the jets? Do they get along, like
That's,
I would imagine it's a much different member, the drone racer versus the airplane model airplane. But am I
I mean,
wrong?
no, you're absolutely right. I would say, yeah, for the longer tenured member, there's a bit of, maybe they don't respect the younger, not that they don't respect the person, but for these new aircrafts, they're foam. You could be flying in there it takes 2 minutes to assemble these things, bind it and flying. For many of these longer tenured members, they were scratch building these. They were using balsa wood. They spent hours and hours and hours just to crash it on their first flight. So I think there's a little bit of that where it's not real. It's too easy. There's a bit of that. And then also with the drones, our longer tenured members see that as the reason that the FA is cracking down more, or has more of an interest in this hobby, or putting a bit more restrictions or making it burdensome to just fly. So yeah, that's accurate. I would say there's a bit of a
It's
disconnect.
so it's an age thing, is what I'm hearing. What I
Yeah,
haven't seen much of in the first five check-ins though is a difference in your questions based on drones or airplanes. Like, why have you not? Why did you choose not to go down that path? Or maybe I missed it. Maybe it wasn't in.
well, there's just so many disciplines that this hobby could offer. I
Yeah.
wanted to treat everyone like I knew nothing about them and just wanted
Mhm.
to give them, you know, the buffet, I guess, or just give
Yeah.
them the best of what we have to offer them.
So regardless, it does their experience with the AMA doesn't really change dramatically based on the unit or the device that they have, really.
Correct.
Yeah.
You get $2.5 million liability insurance for being a member of the magazine, flying sites. Your aircraft doesn't dictate any of your benefits. It could dictate where you could fly it. There's some clubs that may only fly helicopters. Hey, Dave, get your drone out of here. We're only a helicopter club. Our clubs have their own bylaws. They have their own fees to be part of them. So we charter them, but they're really their own entity.
Well, you got that right. I am more of a drone guy. All right, six, seven, eight. I think I'm slowing you down too much. This is interesting. The 1 to 10, how would you rate your experience as opposed to a more net promoter score sort of question? How likely would you be to actually, this isn't net promoter score either. So you got a couple different ratings here. That's interesting.
Yeah, I wouldn't do net promoter score for first year new joining members, but for email 6, 90 days after a new member joins, I want them to tell us how's it going. That's any member type. At the 90-day mark, how's it going? If they give us a low score, they're directed. That's an internal alert to member support. They can then try to overcome whatever issue they're having. If they rank us high, I'm gonna ask for, "Well, what's going well? What's your
Hmm.
experience so good?" So then we would then get an internal alert that would be a testimonial of some sort.
And that would be open ended, by the way. We haven't seen examples of that here, but if somebody hits a 10, takes them a question and say, "Hey, tell us more. What's going well?" Open ended alert then goes to your team, and then you can turn that into a testimonial. Yeah, I love it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Email 7, I recently changed it. Previously, this email was a call to action to donate to our foundation, and it was not performing very well. Very low response rate, low engagement. And I met with those smarter than I and leadership and my marketing director, and we decided to pivot from that. You shouldn't really be seeking donations in that first year for that first year member. They're already you know, there's a cost associated with our membership. There's a cost associated in joining the club. There's a cost associated in getting an aircraft. So don't ask them for money. I wanted to ask them if they're flying, because if they're flying, they're likely going to keep flying. So that's a newer iteration of within the past couple weeks. We switched that out. It operates the same. If they're actively flying, great. Where are you flying at? How's it going? If they're not flying, well, do you need to be connected with the club? Not yet. I'd like to learn how to fly. Well, then we do the same thing. Internal alert. Find a club with an instructor near them. Get them connected, and then yeah, email 8 is when we start with the renewal emails, and it operates pretty much the same, similar to the other one. If they rank us high, we if they rank us high this time, we actually ask them to renew. We send them to a landing page that asks, "Hey, all right, glad to hear you're having a great experience. Would you like to renew today?" Or if they're having a poor or they're less likely to renew, we ask them why not. What's the reason for it?
So 6 months in, you start the renewal process?
Yes.
That's amazing. People actually renew their membership 6 months before it expires?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
I I would recommend it. Maybe standard practices or what I've seen elsewhere is, maybe that 90-day mark, the final 90 days, you start asking it, but why not ask it 6 months? If they're having a great experience, get it then.
Dion wants to know, is there an open invoice for them to pay immediately after that email?
They would be directed to our like an enrollment page or renewal page, and it would take them to there where they'd put in their credentials and they would just renew.
A credit card, yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Um, Ashley would like to know, oh, yeah, actually, while we're still on the renewals, Ginger would like to know, do you have a lot of people that pay early? Do you have any idea the percentage of people that you get to renew that far in advance?
I don't, and actually we let me see something real quick.
And Dion,
We
yeah, you said it must just be your AMS can't renew without an invoice. My hunch is that has something to do with the type of membership too, and maybe the amount that they're paying. Your membership it's a hobbyist, so that you have a lot of members, but they're not paying a lot to be a member for the most part, right, Kenny?
well, our member dues are kind of high in this space. I mean, it's $85 for an adult membership and 75 for those 65 and older.
Yeah.
I I will say this, since this launched in October, no one has received email 8 yet. So we're going to find out.
Okay. And then have you found it more successful to open renewals 6 months before membership expiration versus 90 days, et cetera? And I think, Kenny, what I just heard you say, this is a new experiment to open up the renewals this early, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
TBD, Hannah,
TBD,
TBD.
that'll be next year maybe.
So Ashley wants to know, are you using the responses from your emails? And if so, I'm assuming she means from these questions. Are you using the responses? And if so, how are you using these? And do you share these with anyone else in your staff department? So let me try to answer part of that, and then you can answer the part about, are you sharing it? The answers here always lead to, and I'm going to back up a little bit. The answers, when somebody selects an answer to this, it always leads to another experience. It always leads to either another question or a landing page. And I don't think we showed any of the actual, here's an example of a landing page. So what are my benefits? Well, it brings you to this member benefits landing page, or with a, it looks like you have a video in here as well. The safety rules is going to bring you to a different thing. But depending on how you answer it, it's triggering a number of actions in here. And now this is behind the scenes, what's happening. So if somebody says yes, showing text on the landing page, and it's adding somebody to a different campaign so that they get a check-in a little bit later. So Ashley, every answer triggers a series of actions. So no matter how somebody answers, that information is being used immediately. Question for you, Kenny, though, is how are you using this information down the road, or other departments at AMA interested in any of the questions that you're asking?
Yeah, great question. So for the open-ended responses, I have that internal alert sent to a we use Microsoft Teams. It's sent to a channel in Microsoft Teams that I've named testimonials. So I just added that email. You can have an email of a channel in Teams. So anytime we get a positive testimonial, 10 out of 10, you guys are awesome, my club's awesome, those come in right to this campaign, and any of our staff members could access that and see it. And then, we're going to use that. Maybe, Dave says the AMA is the best thing ever. Joining a club was the coolest thing I've done in years, yada, yada. We would then use that and future marketing materials and other things.
All right, let's keep rolling. You got 9 and 10 here. Is this how many check-ins do you have over the course of the year?
For this onboarding campaign, we have 10.
Okay, so your last two check-ins, which starts to lead to the renewal process. Are you ready to renew? And you're doing it. I'm assuming here, Kenny, not to step on your toes here, but if they say yes and they renew, they do not get the 10th.
Right. That's correct.
And then, but the 10th is here if they don't answer this. I'm
Right.
actually going to assume if they hit no, it takes them the question, well, why not? What's going on? And they're also removed from this campaign, so they still won't get the 10th check-in as well. You don't want to repeat things if they've already answered it.
Yeah, you don't want to ask for money if you've already received it.
Yep. Or if they said, no, I'm not giving it to you.
Or yeah,
Yeah,
that as
right.
well.
Excellent. All right. Uh, do you get permission from members to use their testimonials in advance, or are they anonymized?
They would be It's a great question. They would likely be anonymized, or if we were to reach out to them and ask and get their permission, we would then use their name, likeness, member number.
All right, the results 45% engagement rate. So, in looking at the engagement rate, that's referencing anybody that's participated in any of the questions, and it looks like almost half. That's amazing. Almost half of your new members have engaged in this campaign at some point. Yeah, that's phenomenal. There's the double. This is the double the rate of people that were clicking, I'm assuming, is how you were measuring.
Yeah.
Open rates mean nothing in this scenario. What matters is who's clicking on things, who's doing stuff. Harbor Club participation rates, improved communication, stronger onboarding, and foundation for future campaigns. Gold there. What do you use for your broadcast email system?
Our
Kenny,
other
what is the other what's the broadcast system you use for email?
our other email platform?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, Higher Logic.
Hi, so it's Informs or Real Magnet?
It's Real Magnet.
Okay, excellent. Um, let's let me touch on this for a second. So there might be a couple questions here before we go into acquisitions and renewals. Um, Are there blueprints or recommendations for onboarding campaign timelines when membership is on a calendar year? Yes, so the renewal process is comes down to oftentimes whether it's a calendar year or anniversary date. We have 20 some odd blueprints. They're absolutely awesome, really, really awesome. And you can, if you're already a client of ours, work with your client success manager to get those rolling. Emma, they will help you with that. Do you differentiate between account-based memberships versus individual memberships? So trade versus professional. It's oftentimes how I look at it, and the answer is yes. Um, and that's it. Good. All right. Acquisition and renewals. So naturally, new member onboarding is important, but in order to get new members, you got to acquire new members, and of course, to keep the new members, you got to renew their new members. So I asked Kenny to show us a couple of the campaigns he's doing. Here is a new member acquisition campaign. You want to walk us through this?
Yeah. So, like I would imagine most of you, we have Google ads. How do people even know the AMA exists? So if they're searching related keyword searches, they may come across our ad. If they click it, it's going to take them to a landing page. I would call this the middleman between you know Google and our main website. This allows for us to collect their email address, some contact information, because if you just send them directly to your website, you may not get any of that. You'll never be able to engage with them. So if they click a Google ad, they go to the Unbounce page, we collect their email address. Hopefully, once they click I'm in, they ultimately join the organization. But 95% don't. We get about a 5% conversion that land here, complete the whole process, and pay. But we do get a lot of emails that for those that become leads. And so for those individuals, we push them into our Prop Fuel lead campaign.
All right. And that looks like this. Is this the Prop Lead campaign?
Yeah. So
Okay.
15 minutes after you've been on that or have given us your email address, we use Zapier and is connected to Unbounce, and we push them into this lead campaign. And 15 minutes after that, we ask if they would like to subscribe to AMA this week. It's our weekly newsletter. uh, I would call it like our best free offer we have to anyone. I'd like to think that everybody's got their best offering, and whether it's a class or a newsletter or whatever your association organization has. What's your freebie? What's your thing you could provide for them? And for us, it's this newsletter, and this is how we keep them engaged and get them interested. And then subsequently, there's other emails that follow after that.
This is excellent. And Justin, there's the answer to your question, the 0.25, wait, 0.25 hours. Okay, by the way, this is what it looks like in the back end when you're creating a drip campaign or a sequence campaign, as we call it. This is oh, yeah, no, this is what the campaigns look like. Phenomenal response. Excellent response to this.
Yeah, we're very pleased with it. This might be a weird thing, but for email number 2, I just wait 1 day as opposed to waiting a week or 10 days. For these leads, they're not members. They've wanted the newsletter, and I'm trying to get them more information immediately.
Hmm.
So I just wait 24 hours and I ask them a lot of the similar questions you see in the onboarding campaign: learning to fly, events, how to join, clubs, and the safety rules.
I love
Like,
that. Yeah. How long
great.
in between step two and step three, Kenny?
That's 1 week, 7 days. We
I
give them a
like
little
it.
bit of a breather.
Yeah. Yeah, but not that much. I think what I love is you're striking while it's on their mind. All right, and by the way, we talked about open rates briefly. This is what matters. This
Right.
this is the result. And so this also is right out of Prop Fuel, by the way, conversions. This is talking to your AMS, and your AMS is saying, okay, based on the people in this campaign, these are the ones that renewed. And so you can see in this particular scenario, and this is the results of your acquisition campaign. Is that right?
Or these are leads that joined.
So leads that joined through
Yep.
the acquisition campaign, 18% engagement, over $100,000 in revenue just from this one campaign.
Yeah, we're very pleased with it. And one of the stipulations for this conversion list was that they had to answer a question. That's always, on our end, what was it that made this person join? Was
Yeah.
it, the profile email? Was it the magazine? Was it something else? Was it the club? But they answered a question and now they're a member. So it was profile.
Yeah, thank you. And by the way, everybody can turn on conversions. If you're a client, if you're using PropFuel, you can set up these conversion lists to see the ROI for your campaigns. And again, that's one of these scenarios where just reach out to your client success manager. If you do not know who they are, feel free to reach out to me. Desmond, the slides will be available. We send them out. Brittany, can you pop in here the timeline of when people can expect I think it's the recording and the slides, but correct me if I'm wrong. Brittany, please. Thank you. Member renewals. Are you planning to renew? I really like that question better than, hey, it's time to renew now. Are you planning to renew? Right. So
Right.
you're just capturing intent. You're making it really, really easy.
So this email is not only just for new joins, but for any member. The moment they get into the 90 day before the expire date, the 90 days before they're gone, this hits their inbox. So we just ask them if they're planning to renew. And it's great to see that 62% said yes. And for those who didn't, we're getting good information as to why they aren't.
Yeah. So right here, I think it was Ashley, if I'm not mistaken, I asked, what do you do with the information when they answer it? Well, here's a good example. If they say no, it takes them to this question, is there something holding you back? And then based on how they answer this, you can take them to another page that says, well, uh, uh, I don't know. I don't know how you might combat some
It's
of these
tough to
objections.
overcome some of them, but
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
you don't know how to learn to fly. We've got instructors, you know, yeah, but cost and time and
Age
health
or
and
health. Well, you're healthy enough to answer this question. So you
right.
might so yeah, this is a phenomenal campaign. Well done. And then nurturing. Yes. I'm going to go back one slide here. You have all these people that are saying, I need more time. You're going to remove the people that say no, and you're going to remove the people that actually renew. But
Correct.
of those 62%, so what's 62% of 1939? I have no idea, but it's a lot.
Yeah,
It's over 1,000. And I guarantee not all 1,000 people are going to renew just because they clicked on that button. So now you got to nurture them and the people that need more time. And that's what this is.
exactly. So it's yeah, I don't know what the cadence is exactly, but you're right. It's sort of just asking that same question a little bit later as they get closer to the zero mark, the end of their membership, and it's repetitive, but it's been effective. We're just asking them if they're ready, they need more time, or why not.
Now
And
you'll see the numbers going down. 1,232 answered this one, 506 answered this one, 210 answered this one. You know why? It's because we're being very targeted about who receives this campaign. You're removing people if
yeah,
they say no, and you're removing people once they renew. So generally speaking, the people here are getting renewed because I mean, I'm sorry, getting removed because they're renewing. So that's a really, really good thing that the number of people answering this is going down because you have fewer people going through the process. Are there options to unsubscribe and then are they off all of your lists? How do you handle? The answer is yes, there is an unsubscribe option and all the prop fuel emails. Kenny, how do you handle unsubscribes?
it's a great question. It's something I recently was looking into because I would consider these transactional emails to where you can unsubscribe from everything but transactional emails.
Hmm.
So I guess I would remove them from a campaign, but they if they were to unsubscribe from, another campaign that wasn't a transactional, they could still receive these as emails even though they've unsubscribed because it falls into that transactional category. But I if they don't want to hear information from you or they don't want it, it's no benefit to inundating somebody that's not going to renew.
Yeah, yeah, I'm a believer in that as well. However, there is a organization, um, and off the top of my head, I can't remember who it is, but they sent a note out to I want to say like 13,000 people that like, if you're on this webinar, tell me who you are. But they sent a note out to like 13,000 people who had unsubscribed at some point, and they got like 30 some odd percent of them to resubscribe. And then of course the question always comes up, well, are they unsubscribed? Are you allowed to email them like that? And the caveat, the loophole is that it was transactional. So, don't trust me on that. Ask your counsel about whether or not you can email something, but um that's what they did. They got 30%, 33%, I think was the number of the people that they emailed to come back. All
Wow.
right. This is great. The results. Wow, man, look at this. This is incredible.
Yeah.
So this is okay. So this is the renewal, 182K up and to the right, engagement rate 22%. Of course, this isn't the only way you're getting people to renew. You have do you do mailers? What are the other methodologies you're using to renew people?
Yeah, we send out 3 direct mailers. I think it's about 60, 30 days before they expire, and then shortly after they expire, they get a direct mail piece. But for this campaign, like the other conversion lists, they've had to click something to be counted as a converted. They've had to answer a question. And for this campaign, really the only question is, you want to renew? Do you need more time or
Yep.
no?
The nurturing piece of this is the gold, I think. All right, Kenny, thank you so much. Listen, if you had some questions in here, if you're not using PropFuel, I strongly recommend if this is intriguing, I encourage you to click on that link in the chat, or you can use your phone and scan this QR code. There's also another webinar coming up. I think Brittany is going to post that in the chat as well. There it is. There's another webinar coming up, 5 proven campaigns that drive member engagement. This is through working with our friends at UST in their program, their online learning program. They have a great webinar series, UST. Kenny, really, really appreciate you taking the time to help put these slides together, give us the data, and share it with all your peers out here. Any last questions for Kenny before we wrap this? I think we got a lot of good questions along the way. Yeah, congrats on your success, Kenny. Great stuff.
Thanks for
Excellent.
having me. This is awesome. I love the
Yeah,
platform, and get with your client success manager, learn what you can do, make the most of it, and have a lot of fun along the way.
here's Kenny's contact information. If you have any questions, you want to reach out to Kenny directly, feel free. And we will follow up with a recording and access to the slides tomorrow. Thanks all for joining us. Really, really love seeing you all here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye, everybody. Thank you, Kenny.